Good afternoon and welcome. I am Mary with Mary's Blue Door, and I am here to share with you the scientific foundations of the breath and essential oils for moving through emotions. And this is actually take two. I was invited last night to Littlefield Physical Therapy to share this information. And unfortunately, we had technical difficulties and weren't able to upload the Facebook Live. And so we wanted to do a do-over so that we can share it. And for anybody that wasn't able to make it last night, that you have a chance to be able to review the information here. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to Littlefield Physical Therapy for having me. I was really pleased to be there, and I'm really pleased to be able to share this with all of the parents that weren't able to make it last night due to the adverse weather. And apologies to all of those who did tune in on Facebook Live last night and weren't able to partake due to our technical issues. So thank you for your understanding and patience. So the reason I'm here today is to share with you the tools of the breath and the essential oils to support you as you go through this journey with your children. I know this audience that I really want to talk to tonight is Littlefield Physical Therapy. And you guys have special needs children, and having walked that walk myself, I know that each walk is unique because each child is unique, and then you add on top of that their unique needs, as well as the needs that they have just as being a child, as being a normal 5-year-old and a normal 6-year-old. And as a mom to that and a parent to that, you need to be able to wear lots of different hats and do all sorts of things that you never expected or had never had any training for. So, and having walked that walk without tools, I really wanted to share them with you to make your walk a little more peaceful, a little more joyous, a little bit more uplifting, and even more rewarding, because it is so rewarding to be a parent of a special needs child. And I just want to give you tools that you can also teach your child so that they can start to learn them from a really young age. And that just changes their whole life, and it'll change your whole life. And for anybody that's listening to this that isn't part of Littlefield Physical Therapy, what I'm sharing can be applied to all children, to all relationships, to all walks of life, because we all have challenges. You know, when I was faced with Ethan's diagnosis, which happened back in 2004. He was almost 4 years old, and I knew something was up. I knew that, that there was something off, and I knew it was probably autism. But when you get the diagnosis in black and white, there's no running from it. There's no avoiding it. And the devastation that I felt, and the loss of all the hopes and dreams of this perfect child when he was born that would have the life that you don't even know that you're envisioning their life until it's sort of taken away from you or reduced in some way. I didn't have the tools to deal with the shame I felt, the responsibility. Was it my fault? What had I done? Was this some kind of karmic punishment for something I did? Something I did before the pregnancy, during the pregnancy? Was it a thought? Was it this? Was it that? And then not having tools to deal with it, I didn't really process any of those emotions. So I just did what I did. I stuffed them all in a box and got on with things. Faced what I had to face, got him into the programs that he needed to get into. And then 2007 was when I left my job, and I decided to stay full-time at home with Ethan and to use all of my scientific knowledge to help him on his way. And I spent probably the next 3 to 5 years working with him. We did all sorts of therapies. We did all sorts of, food interventions. I did all sorts of research on all sorts of different medicines, alternative options for him, allergy testing, all of this stuff. And it was wonderful. And Ethan started to bloom. And so for those 4 years, he was kind of my world. I mean, that was my entire focus, was taking care of him. And when that happens, you kind of lose yourself a little bit. And I had to. That was just the way it had to be for Ethan to get where he got. And that walk wasn't always smooth. because I'm taking care of Ethan and meeting all of his needs, but then I also have to meet the needs of my other child, as well as the needs of my husband, extended family, all of that stuff. And so there was times that I would get really frustrated because I am born in one gear. I was born with high gear, and I just love to be in high gear, go, 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 go. Well, Ethan was born with a slow gear, and Ethan likes to take his time. And I kind of joke about that now because as challenging as it was at the time to have to slow down to that pace, I used to pray for a long time to be more patient. I knew I was an impatient person, and I often got in trouble as a kid growing up for being impatient with my siblings, and it affected relationships at work as I became a young adult. So I used to pray for patience, and now I joke that God sent me Ethan. Sort of cured my patience problem. So be careful what you pray for and what you ask for. And walking that walk with all of that frustration and not knowing how to deal with it. And because I would sit down at night and just be exhausted because my whole world was controlling things for Ethan, controlling his environment, controlling the food, controlling where we went, organizing the schedule so that nothing went, off schedule. Because with autism, you need a very structured, you want a very clear path of the day, doesn't like a lot of changes. And to manage all of that, as well as managing all the things, was overwhelming. And there was times when I would sit down and do homework with them, and it'd be like, oh, for the love of God, 3 + 2 is 5. Why can't you see that 2 + 3 is also freaking 5? And those things were just so head-wrecking. And there was times when that overwhelm became so much that it came out, and it wasn't pretty. It was not pretty. But I was doing the best I could. As I went through that with Ethan and came out the other end, I kind of came up for air, 2010, 2011. And because now Ethan was doing better and doing better at school, needed me a little bit less, now I had nothing to control. So I'd spent my whole last 3 or 4 years controlling Ethan and his environment and everything. So I decided, well, I guess I'll go control me. So I did that for a couple of years, and I exercised like a mad woman. I ate like a bikini model. I really was very careful about everything I ate. I controlled everything I ate. I was very focused on what my body image was, because that was something I could control. I didn't know at the time I was trying to fill a void. That ran its course, and then I found a business in 2012, Dr. Mary O's Health and Fitness. Decided, seeing as I loved food and loved fitness and loved bossing people around, I should, go around telling people how to exercise and what to eat. Seemed like a perfect match. And I loved that. And so I had, a great husband, 2 great kids. I had this business. So why was I still feeling blah? And I remember talking to a neighbor one morning, and I told her how I was feeling. And she said to me, Mary, it sounds to me like you're spiritually disconnected. And I went, I'm what now? And that was a bit, for a traditional Irish Catholic girl, this was a bit out there. And as I sat with her words over the next few days, I realized she was kind of right. I was really rote in any of my church practices or prayer practices. I went to church on Sundays because that's what you're supposed to do. Said prayer before bed because that's what you're supposed to teach your kids to do. I said grace before meals because and everything in my life was just about doing what I was supposed to do to be a good girl. I would exercise 3 to 5 times a week because that's what you're supposed to do to stay healthy. I would eat these things because, and there's nothing wrong with doing those things. It's good to exercise 3 to 5 times a week. It's good to eat well because I feel good on it. But I wanted to be in a place where I do it because I want to feel good, not because I have to do that in order to be a certain size, in order to be accepted, in order to be loved, in order to have self-esteem, in order to feel good about myself. So I was at yoga one day and I saw this flyer as I was leaving, and this flyer said, there's a transformational breath workshop coming up this weekend, and for $25 you can get more peace and joy. That was all I read. That wasn't what the flyer said, but that was what I read. $25, I can get me some peace and joy. I am all over that. Sign me up. So I went, and I had no idea what it was. I'd never done any kind of fancy breath work before other than some yogic breathing, deep breathing to help me hold the pose. And I was blown away. I was blown away. How could just breathing make me feel this good? How could I suddenly feel all this love? I still get emotional because I didn't know that I didn't have to show, I didn't know that you didn't have to jump through hoops in order to be loved. Oh, I didn't expect that. Give me a moment. See, I thought I had to be the perfect mom, the perfect size, be the perfect Christian, the perfect little Catholic girl in order to be loved by anybody, by God, by the angels, by the universe, source, whatever it is that you call it. And I discovered in that session that that wasn't true. And that I had all this love and support and help around me. And that changed my world. Changed how I parent, changed how I wife, changed my business. I'm no longer doing health and fitness. And you know, when I realized that my blogs were not about what people should eat and what exercise they should do, it was all about their emotions and why they should breathe and get in touch with themselves and connect to themselves. I realized I was in the wrong business and I needed to change it. So I became a certified transformational breath facilitator. And now I'm actually a co-trainer also with the foundation, with the Transformational Breath Foundation. So that means I also train new facilitators, which is super exciting. So that's what was in it for me. That's why I love the breath. And the oils were something I discovered a short bit afterwards. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the oils later on. But I've been using the oils since about 2013. And I used them in the beginning for a lot of their physical benefits. Because I cured a sinus infection that I'd had for 20 years, a recurring sinus infection. And I cured it with oils in the period of just a few days. And that was in 2013. And I have not had a sinus infection since. So that sold me on the oils. And I'm going to share a little bit more about the emotional support of them in a little bit, but I want to right now just stay focused on the breath. And I want to just, I know there's some people maybe online. If anybody is online, you know, has anybody heard of any benefits of deep breathing? There's a lot of buzz now about breathing. There's Wim Hof, there's a lot more yoga studios opening up. So there's a lot of people that are just kind of been, you know, talking about breath and mindfulness more in media recently. So a lot of when I generally am with a group, what I hear is a lot of things people, you know, hear that it oxygenates the body, which is really good, relaxation and energy. So those are all great benefits. There's a myriad of physical benefits of just learning how to deep breathe. And I'm not going to go into that in this video, but I can talk about that another time. But today I'm going to focus on, you know, the energy, because that affects our mood, the relaxation, and how it affects our emotions, which isn't something that we always think about. So when we just first look at energy, the energy that we get from oxygen actually from our breath provides 75% of the energy that we have. So the oxygen that we breathe fuels 75% of the energy that we have. Now, most of us would think, I know I would have thought that it was the food we consume and the liquids we consume, but of course, all of that requires oxygen in order to metabolize. The energy that we have always affects our mood, because when we have more energy, we just feel like we can get more accomplished, we feel more inclined to get out, we feel more inclined to do things that are good for us. So that's a really good thing for our mood. There's the other big benefit that I wanted to talk about was relaxation. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a sec. So the relaxation that we get from breathing only occurs when we use our diaphragm. There's a lot of people out there teaching breath work, which I'm super excited about. There's all sorts of, you know, pranic breathing, alternate nose breathing, you know, breathing where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, all of those types of things. And they are all wonderful. However, they're only wonderful if you know how to use your diaphragm, and a lot of us aren't. So I want to talk today about using your diaphragm. So I'm going to stand up here so you can see it a little better. So your diaphragm is a muscle that runs along the bottom of the rib cage, and it's kind of dome-shaped. It's really just running along the bottom of your rib cage. So it's kind of shaped like that. And so when you inhale, it contracts, and when it contracts, it flattens out, and it actually pushes on your abdominal organs. And then on the exhale, it just simply relaxes into place. So inhale, contracts and flattens, exhale, it relaxes back into place. So one way that we can know if we're taking a deep diaphragmatic breath is if your belly is gently moving up and down with your breath. So if it's moving up on the inhale and falling on the exhale, you're taking a nice diaphragmatic breath. You want to make sure that when you're doing that, your belly is nice and soft, that you're not engaging your abdominal muscles and just pushing your belly out. So you just want to relax your body and just see what your diaphragm is doing. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. We'll do a little demo so that we'll have time to spend with that and you'll be able to feel that for yourself. So when we take in that deep diaphragmatic breath, what it's doing is it's almost creating like a vacuum or a suction that's pulling the oxygen into the lower lobes of the lungs. Now the lungs are kind of pyramid shaped, so there's more tissue at the bottom of the lungs than at the top of the lungs. So there's a couple of benefits to bringing oxygen into the lower lobes. The first is that you're getting more of those physical benefits because you're getting more oxygen in. So you're getting more oxygenation, you're getting more energy. You're also going to get more relaxation, because how the relaxation response works is in the lower lobes, there's specific receptors. And when these are in contact with the oxygen that comes in, they send a response to the brain that actually slows down the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight. And it kind of takes the brake off the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and restore. So it's stimulating that relaxation, that rest to restore, and putting the stop on the fight or flight. So that's why we feel so relaxed. It's really good for anxiety. It can be really good in a panic attack too, to take nice, slow, deep diaphragmatic breaths. It will get you through that. And that's one of the things, again, that can totally change your mood. Because when you can relax about something, if something goes wrong and you can just take a few deep breaths and relax, it's going to changes the chemistry in your body. It changes the cortisol hormones, change all of that, and just lowers all of that so that you're in a much better place. Now, the third thing, which I'm really excited to share, is about how it moves our emotions and supports us through processing our emotions. So before we get into that, I just want to take a moment and talk about emotions. So emotions, most of us can identify what they are, and we know most of them when we feel them, at least the big ones. We know what laughter is like, we know what anger is like, we know what grief is like, we know what depression is like, and most of the time we're feeling that in our body in some way. But these emotions are really just an energy, and the word emotion comes from energy in motion. And Einstein has told us that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be transformed. And so can our emotions. So by using the breath, we can work through our emotions and literally transform them. We can transform the anxiety. We can transform the fear. We can transform, the anger. And this happens in a couple of ways. So the first way is if we think about like a belly laugh, right? You can feel a big belly laugh start in your belly, and it actually goes physically all through your body, right? So you can feel it move. And what helps it to move is the breath, because the breath is actually sort of the wave that it can move with. It needs the breath in order to move. If there's no breath, that energy is not going to go anywhere. That emotion is not going to move. And it's fairly normal for us to do that when we have a good emotion, to just breathe into it naturally and laugh and enjoy it and share it and be contagious. However, that's not our habit with emotions that aren't so fun. For example, if we feel fearful, it's not our natural response to take a big breath into that fear. Or if we're angry, sometimes we don't have the presence of mind. We're just so consumed with the emotion that we don't have the presence of mind to breathe into it so that we can move it in the moment. But Gay Hendricks, in his book, The Big Leap, and he's also written another book, Conscious Breathing, he talks about when we breathe into fear, it will become excitement. And that excitement can even become exhilaration. And we can see this at theme parks. If you've ever been, in line for a roller coaster, right? You're kind of scared. At least me, I'm speaking for myself maybe, but you're so scared. I get really scared, and I'm watching that roller coaster go up, and I'm thinking, oh, what goes up must come down, and I'm terrified by the time I get to the top. But I'm breathing the whole way because I know that I'm going to enjoy it so much. I'm going to get such a thrill because there's that immediate feedback from all of the people around me, and I can hear their their shrills and their laughs and their screams and the thrills and the spills and the whole lot. And it's so exciting. And I know I'm going to get to it. So I'm motivated to breathe through it, knowing that that's what I'm going to get. But in life, that isn't always the case. When something happens that's unexpected, or you're thrown out of your comfort zone and faced with a challenge that you don't want to do or don't think you can do, it can be really hard to breathe through that and get to that place of excitement. It's something that kind of has to be learned. And so the tools that I'm going to teach you today, they take practice. And when you practice them all the time, every day, you will get to a place where you will become more responsive than reactive. And I actually had a perfect example of this show up for me yesterday. I was getting ready for the talk and I had some things I wanted to print out, and my printer decides to mess up. Decides it's not going to print, and I have to change the ink, and then paper gets jammed, and then I can't get the tray in, and then one thing led to another. And I was so frustrated and really angry with the printer and wondering, like, why is this happening now? Why is this happening? It's so annoying. And I just was freaking out. And I took a breath and realized I was also really hungry, and I came downstairs and got myself something. And as I was getting ready in the kitchen, I noticed in the sink there was a big pile of dishes from my son. And it just enraged me, because I've had so many conversations with them about just putting the dishes, please, into the dishwasher. It's right there. It doesn't take a lot. Don't leave them in the dishes for me, or in the sink for me. And I just felt that rage start to surge. And I was ready to just let loose and rip into him. And I took a breath. And in that breath, I realized that those same dishes had been there an hour before and didn't bother me at all, other than to give me a mental note of, oh, I need to remind Ethan to put those dishes in the dishwasher. He must have got distracted and forgot. And in that breath, I was able to switch off that rage and realize that I was just going to take out my anger on him about the printer and these issues, and it had nothing to do with him and these dishes. And that all happened in a single breath. And that's how quick it can be. And so because I have the practice, it's become my default just to take a breath when I'm feeling any kind of emotional overwhelm. And that's what I want for you too. So that's kind of how we can work in the moment with emotions. Now, we also have all sorts of emotions that we have stored in our body. These are old things that we have repressed, suppressed, avoided. And these are the things that become our triggers. Those things, those people that just bug you and get under your skin, or those things that just get, when somebody does it, there's no rationalizing it, it just gets under your skin. It mightn't bother anybody else, but it sure as bothers you. So those are our triggers. And these are based on childhood things that have gotten stuck since we were little kids. Because when we're little kids, we discover really young that if we don't hold our breath, we're not going to feel an unpleasant emotion. It also works if we don't feel safe expressing our emotion, because maybe we're in trouble for having hit our brother or sister, and we feel perfectly justified in having hit them, but we don't think our parents are going to be open to that. So we might repress that and hold back by holding our breath. And this works so well for us, we do it our whole life long. So I'm a good 21 years now. So 21 years later, or 50 years later, or 70 years later, however many years later, you've spent your whole life shutting down your respiratory system, closing it down. Because every time, I'm going to stand up again, every time we hold our breath, we're crunching it in. So for me, I hold it like right here, right around my ribs. We call this in my breath work, the fear belt. And that's where I hold it. I'm like, ooh, I even hold it in my face. Look at that. So we all do that. And every time we do that, we're tightening those muscles. And when these muscles get tightened over and over and over again and never stretched, they're going to lose their mobility. They're going to lose their flexibility, just like any muscle gets worked all the time and doesn't get any stretching. And so over time, when we take in a deep breath, there isn't as much room for expansion because our muscles have gotten so tight. And this results in most of us walking around only using 20 to 30% of our breath capacity. 20 to 30%. Which means that even when you're doing all those awesome deep breathing exercises, you're only getting 20 to 30% of the potential benefits. And I have seen people come through my door and do a breath session, a full transformational breath session with me, and walk out, and often their breath capacity has been doubled in just one session. It's that powerful. As well as, the restricted breathing that happens when we hold on to our emotions, when we repress things and suppress them and avoid them and put them in little tiny boxes, they get to stay in our body somewhere. And they actually and I'll talk about this in a moment, each emotion that we have has a different vibration, a different energy to it. And it finds somewhere in the body that kind of matches that energy, and then it will get stuck in there. And that can lead, if there's too much of that in our body, that's going to lead to imbalance and health issues down the road. So let's talk about the energy of things before we get on to how the breath can help to heal some of these old wounds so that we're not triggered by them anymore, and that we allow these to, come to the surface and be filled, and rechange those programming and those patterns we have of being reactive to things that are triggered because we have a childhood trauma associated with it, or a childhood memory, or a childhood repression associated with it. So absolutely everything has energy. If you were to, look at like a fresh fruit off a tree or a slice of bread, what has more energy? Fresh fruit, right? Fresh fruit was in this hand. Fresh fruit is going to have more energy. We can just kind of tell that. Same with emotions. Some emotions feel heavier and denser, like those like grief and anger and sadness. That's why we feel down, and we kind of slump our shoulders, and we feel apathetic, and our inner Eeyore comes out, and we feel heavy and unmotivated to do anything, because it's hard when we feel that heavy and that dense. It's like moving something that's physically heavy. It takes more effort. We even describe it as being heavy-hearted. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got those light, fun emotions, right? I got to play with my painting this morning, for those of you that follow me on Instagram, and that was fun. There's, catching up with an old friend. That's enjoyable. It's exciting. It's happy. There's joy. There's peace. There's acceptance. There's all of these things that feel so much lighter. And because they're so much lighter, it's much easier for us to walk around with them, because they're not as difficult to carry, right? And they're also more contagious, and other people want them. Like, nobody really wants to carry your big old sack of rocks, right? But anybody wants to carry your big old, bag of light. So it's just, so we can tell that there's an energy to things, even though we're not physicists, we're not measuring it in any way, but it's just something that we can perceive. So our emotions have energy, our vibration, and so does our body. Our body ranges from about 62 to 68 hertz, and so does the oxygen that we breathe. Oxygen measures a little bit higher than the musical note middle C, which is at 261 hertz. So oxygen is going to be a little higher than that. So when we have all of these energies, and you have a high energy and low energy, the laws of physics actually come into play when we start to heal emotions with the breath. In transformational breath, the breath that I do, we breathe in a circular way. So we breathe in and out with no pauses. So you breathe in and out, in and out, in and out. So you can go in and out, in and out, in, out. So I'm not rushing the breath, but I'm just eliminating the pauses. What that creates in our body is a really high amount of energy, and people feel that in their body. They'll feel it sensational. You might feel waves of energy, waves of tingling, heat, coolness, different sensations in the body. And that's just the energy from that oxygenation that we're bringing into the body and then keeping it there. Because remember, the breath is also the life force. It's the prana. Christians refer to it as the Holy Spirit, breathing in the breath of life, the Holy Spirit. And so it's super high energy and super energizing for our body. And so when we have these old things in our body, these old angers and resentments and griefs and all of this other stuff, the laws of physics say that the law of entrainment rules that anything of a low vibration is going to want to try and match that high vibration. And so it's actually going to try and change its vibration to match that higher vibration. So that's what happens in a breath session with me or somebody who's also a trained facilitator. You bring in all this oxygen, you create this environment of super high vibration, and this creates, we're stirring the pot, so to speak. This creates space for those old wounds that are ready to be released from the body and transform. Because we talked about that energy earlier, that Einstein said it can't be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So those old memories, those old wounds, those old, hurts, old emotions can be healed and transformed into something lighter. So we've all experienced this if you've had a really big cry. If you've ever just cried and, sobbed and just like from your gut. And then when it passes, you feel so much lighter because you've let go of that. You've processed it and you've allowed it to be felt and to be emoted and to be processed and integrated. Well, that happens in a breath session. You don't cry all the way through it. Sometimes you might cry a little bit, but you don't cry all the way through it. But it's the same principle of we're allowing these old things to come up and be felt and be processed and give them that expression that they didn't have maybe when we were 4 and we were in trouble and some adult is screaming at us that, that we're bad or we shouldn't have done that or whatever it is that was being said. And we didn't feel safe to express or feel that emotion. So that's how it works. And to me, that's just the most amazing thing about this because it changed my whole wide world. It changed everything about me and still continues to this day. Every time I have a breath session, I have a new layer of healing, a new revelation, a new perspective. And every time we do this work, we raise our overall vibration. Because as I'm letting go of more of this stuff, I'm attracting less of it and I'm storing less of it. Because I'm more aware when it comes in, so I can process it in the moment. And then it's much easier for me to connect with all the good things in life, the joy, the peace, the acceptance. And it's not perfect. I have bad days. I have days where I get mad. I have days when I don't want to get out of bed, but I have my tools. I have days when I get bad news. And my mind goes into the what ifs. Well, now this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and this is going to happen, and the whole world's going to end. But then I realize, oh no, I have my tools. I'm just going to sit here and breathe for half an hour into my pillow. And if I want to cry, I'm going to cry too. But I have my tools. So the other tool that I want to share with you that I'm really excited is the essential oils and their emotional support. Because when I discovered these, it just brought my work to a whole new level. So essential oils, for those of you that don't know, I'm just going to give a brief description of what they are. And if you want to learn more, contact me or check out my YouTube channel. There's some more information on there. But essential oils are volatile liquids that are, generally speaking, steam distilled from various plants. So they can be taken from, shrubs, bushes, flowers, petals, some bark too, I believe. So they come from all sorts of different plant origins, and they are super concentrated and super potent, especially when you get the therapeutic grade ones. I'm not talking about the stuff at the grocery store. That stuff, it might smell nice, but it's not necessarily going to be as concentrated or as potent as something that you get that has a medicinal value. It takes something like 5,000 rose petals in order to distill 1 kilogram of rose oil. That's 5,000 petals for every kilogram of rose oil. So that kind of blew my mind. These oils, because they're oil-based, they can penetrate our skin, they can penetrate our cell membranes, and they also can penetrate our blood-brain barrier, which is super cool. And they've actually done some studies where they've applied lavender to the bottom of people's feet and 20 minutes later took blood samples. And from that blood sample went and did chromatography to analyze for all of the different chemical compounds that are in lavender. And there's something like 200 chemical compounds in lavender, and all 200 were detected in the blood after 20 minutes of applying it to the feet. Now, I would argue that they probably get into the bloodstream even quicker than 20 minutes, but that was pretty amazing. So when somebody's first introduced, it was my friend Jen Poulsen, who's a friend of mine and an energy coach. She introduced me to the concept of emotional support of essential oils. And in the beginning, I was like, what now? I buy that they work for my body physically, but I'm not really buying into the whole emotional support thing. But because I trusted her and you, I decided, you know what, I'll just go with it. And so at the time, I had a situation that there was something from my heart that I needed to share with my husband. And even though I'm the type of person that has no trouble sharing my mind, I have a lot of trouble being vulnerable and sharing my heart, especially if it's something, asking for something I need for my own self, for my self-care, or for my emotional needs. And also I have a hard time with sharing something if I have a perception that what I'm going to say might not be well received. And so I will either withhold saying that, or I will water it down, or I will say it and then kind of take it back and, you know, pretend that, you know, yes, I was invalid to say that or to think that. So she recommended I use lavender oil on my throat. The throat is where, you know, our seat of our communication. So I did. I started putting it on for a few days. I'm like, well, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to smell really good. And I used it for a number of days, and I kind of forgot about it. I would just put it on every morning and then forgot about it. And then a few days later, an opportunity arose with my husband and I, where I had an opportunity to say what had been on my heart to say. And I just took a deep breath and just came out with it. And it wasn't well received at the time. I can't even remember what the thing was at the time anymore. But I knew that I had spoken my heart. And that it didn't matter what his response was, whether he thought it was foolish or invalid or ridiculous or unwarranted or silly or unnecessary. That didn't matter. What mattered was that it was important to me, and that it was important that I express it. And what he wanted, whatever he was going to do with that information was up to him. And that was the first time I had that experience. And I was like, wow, that oil really worked. Because I'm not 21, I'm 46. So for 46 years, I've had a hard time doing that. And I was blown away. And then what really was remarkable was a few hours later, my husband came back to me and was able to address my need and validate me and see where I was coming from. I was like, whoa, this stuff works. So the way the oils work in helping us with our emotions is the oils are super high frequency too. These measure between 50 and 320 hertz. So the ones that are the lower vibrations, like the 50s, 60s, 70s, those oils are really good for harmonizing and balancing our body. The ones that are higher than that are actually going to raise the vibration of our body, especially if we use them all the time, every day. So just like in the breath, there was that entrainment of the high energy and the lower energies, and that lower energy wanting to try and match that. When we use and apply essential oils to our bodies and smell them, we're raising our vibration, and that's giving those emotions a little bit of space to be heard, a little bit of space to be felt. A great analogy or visual that I love to share, that I found from a book that I will recommend to you in a moment, is if you have really dry, hard, rocky soil and you're trying to pull weeds. Often when you pull those weeds, you're just going to get the top and you're not going to get the roots, which is what we really want, right? So what do? You go water it, right? You add a little water to the soil, it softens it up, and then it's going to be much easier to pull out that whole root with the weed. And that's kind of what the essential oils do in a way. They kind of soften our hearts, they lower our defenses a little bit, help us open the door to our vulnerability. So we still have to do our emotional work, but it's just going to create an environment where it's a little easier to access that, okay? Now, the other way they work is through their smell. The brain, the sense of smell is the only sense that has an effect on the brain. The brain is not affected by, sight or sound or touch or anything, but it is affected by smell. So when we smell an essential oil, it goes, through our olfactory system, and it affects the limbic lobe. Now, the limbic lobe houses two very important components that I'm going to talk about. One is the amygdala, and the other is the hypothalamus. Now, the amygdala is the seat of our emotions. It's the part of the brain that stores the memories of old traumas. It's where our fear and joy and anger can emanate from. It also affects heart rate, our breathing rate, affects our relaxation of our body. It also has an effect on the hypothalamus, which is the hormone headquarters of the body. So the hypothalamus is where we store that governs and regulates our hormone production in our body, okay? So the amygdala is the emotional headquarters, the hypothalamus is the hormonal headquarters, okay? So when we smell the oils, it affects the amygdala and it affects the hypothalamus, which means that it has an effect on our mood, on our heart rate, on the type of hormones that are being produced in our body, which can affect our thyroid, can affect our energy. You know, we have our, sorry, I'm drawing another blank. Neurotransmitters and the serotonin. It can affect our youth and vitality with our growth hormones. It can affect our, sex drive, our sexual hormones. So all of these can be affected. Now, they've done some specific research on a class of compounds called terpenes, which are contained in oils like frankincense, patchouli, vetiver, sandalwood, myrrh, some of these oils. And there's a subclass of terpenes in this oils. And when it's inhaled and sent to the brain, it actually oxygenates the brain. And Joseph Ledoux at the New York Medical University has done some study on this. And we know that the amygdala stores all the memories of old traumas, but what he found is that actually it also is where those traumas can be released. Those memories are released from the amygdala. And that oxygenation of the brain that occurs when we inhale these special oils and these compounds somehow affects the DNA where these memories are stored and unlocks it and allows these to be released. So for anybody out there with really deep-seated childhood trauma, get your hands on a really good oil, a really good quality oil. Like, I recommend Young Living. That's what I represent. There are some other great organizations out there. doTERRA has some good oils. There's Rocky Mountain oils. There's also, for those of you watching abroad in Europe, there's Young Living in Europe as well now. But there's a company in England, NHR Oils. They're based in Brighton in the UK. They're very good quality oils. But get yourself some frankincense or some vetiver, patchouli, or sandalwood, and just smell that. You can just put a little bit on the bottom of your nose, and that's really going to help the brain to release some of those old traumas that you have. Both of these modalities, the breath and the oils, I love. I love them independently of each other. But then I started using the oils with my breath work. And it's been so amazing because they are the perfect marriage, because they work so well together and they just amplify and enhance each other and enrich each other. And one of the reasons I wanted to share them with you guys tonight with Littlefield Physical Therapy is that they're so accessible. And it's so easy to use, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't have to be another chore. Almost everybody in this entire planet now, I think, knows a friend who sells oil. So go hook up your friend who sells oils. And if I had to advise you to get, if you only want to get one or two oils, I would tell you to start with lavender and frankincense. Lavender is going to be your Swiss Army of oils. It's going to do a little bit of everything. If you need to calm down, it'll calm you down. If you need energy, it'll give you a little bit of energy. If you want to sleep, it'll give you sleep. Frankincense is powerful because it's a sacred oil. It's going to help release those traumas. It's really good for us physically. It's good for our immune system. It's great for anything in the mouth. But it also is our connection with the divine. It's got a really high vibration. So it's really going to elevate you every single day. And when you do it, and you're going to learn how to take some deep diaphragmatic breaths, when you do it taking deep breaths, you can just take the time every morning to even just take 10 with your frankincense on your wrists. And then anytime during the day, you're sitting in the bathroom and take a whiff of your wrist and you're going to get some of that high vibration. So it's not anything that's difficult. Breathing is easy. It's free. Even oils, the good oils, they are expensive, but you can dilute them. A little goes a long, long, long ways, and they last forever. These will not go rancid. They will last forever. And as long as you keep them in the bottles that they came with and keep them sealed, keep them closed, they will last you for years. All right. So what I want to do now is I just want to take a few minutes and get everybody sitting comfortably. And we're going to actually practice taking some of these breaths. So what I want you to do is to sit comfortably on a chair, or you can lie down in bed. If you're in bed or you're on a couch, you can lie down. That works too. If you are sitting in a chair, I want you to uncross your legs, or if you're lying in bed, uncross your legs. And on a chair, place your feet on the ground. Now, if you're in a chair that's kind of high and feet can't reach the ground, go get a pillow or something, a bolster or something that you can put under your feet so that your feet aren't hanging there. You want to feel nice and comfortable. And then you're going to put your hand, I'm going to stand up again. You are going to put your hand like really low on your belly, like below your belly button. So my belly button is right there. So my hand is below it. Because this is where we really want to breathe, is deep into our diaphragm, okay? So I want you to just start breathing. And for most of you guys, you're probably going to breathe through your nose, which is fine. So I want you just to breathe in and out through your nose and just notice whatever you notice. Some of you might want to put your other hand on your heart if you want. So you can have one heart on your abdomen and the other on your heart. And you're just going to take some breaths. Now I want you to, just for a moment, just scan and just kind of notice, how did that feel? What did you notice? Did you notice that there was breath in your abdomen? Or was it mostly in your chest? If you're lying on a couch and you're not noticing a lot of breath in your abdomen, I'm going to have you bend your knees. That's going to help. If you're sitting down and you're not noticing a lot of breath in your belly, I want you to maybe put another support underneath your knees so that your knees are kind of coming up towards your chest a little bit. So kind of like you can like bend your knees in like this somehow. Okay. So you can just put your foot on the edge of the seat, or you can put something extra support underneath you. And then what I want you to do is go back to just breathing and notice if that makes a difference. And then I want you to switch from breathing through your nose to breathing through your mouth. So you're just going to, again, have your hand on your belly, your hand on your heart, and just breathe, but in and out through your mouth. And you want to have your mouth open wide enough that you could fit a finger between your upper jaw and lower jaw. So if it's barely open, just open it a little bit more. So most of you are probably going to notice that you're feeling more breath coming into your belly, and your belly is probably rising a little bit more, because when we breathe through our mouth, we're taking in even more breath, which is wonderful for all of those physical benefits that we want, as well as all these emotional benefits that we can get from working with the breath. So now what I want you to do is I want you to put your hands back where they were, and I want you to stay with the breath, stay with it coming in and out through your mouth. But what we're going to start to do for just a couple of minutes is to connect your breath. So you're going to go breathe in and out with no pauses. So we're going to go. And so you want your inhale to be a little longer than your exhale, and that exhale is just going to fall away, kind of effortless. With the work that I do, that in-breath represents, bringing in all the good, bringing in all that energy, all that life force, and the exhale is just letting go of whatever we don't need. And because all that's happening on the exhale is we're relaxing our diaphragm, we don't need to effort on the exhale. So if you're hearing like a or a, just take note of that and just relax that exhale and start to make it a little shorter, kind of like you're, you know, just puffing a puff of air on a mirror on a cold morning. Also just scan your breath and notice, is there a pause before the inhale? Is there a pause before the exhale? Just kind of notice what it is for you, and if there is one, just let it go. So now you can start to slow your breath a little and bring back some of those pauses. And for anybody that does this, I would love you to share with me what your experience was of that. Did you notice anything in your body? Did you feel relaxed? Did you feel aware of your breath? Did you notice anything about your breath? Because our breathing pattern actually tells a lot about us. One of the first things I do when I work with a client is I look at how you're breathing. And I get you breathing in your diaphragm, but then I'm looking for where we're restricting our breath pattern. Remember all those memories and all those things that we've repressed and suppressed? Well, they show up in our breathing pattern. And they really can affect how we are in life. You know, when I first started doing this work, I didn't have a lot of movement in my upper chest because my heart was always guarded, because I grew up, while I was really loved, I grew up believing, like I said, that I had to be a certain way in order to be loved. So I was always very guarded and felt I wasn't worthy of love and that I had to earn it. And so because of that, my upper respiratory system was really shut down. And working with the breath has changed that and just allowed me to be more open to just receiving love, receiving compliments, just being able to receive a compliment, just to be able to, you know, find the joy in things, to see the bright, to see the glass half full rather than half empty most of the time, or nearly all of the time now. Except there's moments when you still get bad news and those old defaults come in, but it's a process. It's a lifelong journey for me, and I'm excited to keep going with it. So if you want to keep going with it, I do have a couple of options for you that I wanted to share, and I will also share them. They're on my website, but I will share them on this thread as well. So for anybody who's local, I will be, you can see it there, I will be at Source Studio in Riverside tomorrow, February the 2nd from 1 to 3 p.m. I am doing an introductory workshop to transformational breath. So this is a perfect workshop for anybody that has never done it before. I'm going to be explaining all about the breath, how it works. I'll be doing some of those breath pattern analysis that I just, you know, how I can look at how you're breathing and tell you how you're showing up in life. I'll be doing some of that, so that's kind of fun. And that's nearby, and you can come pay at the door. It's only $30, and we still have some spots. So RSVP here today, or, you know, shoot me an email or text me or whatever and let me know if you can make us. You can pay at the door. In March, even before March, every week for those that are local, I do groups at my class every Tuesday morning I do groups at my house, not at my class. I do groups at my house every Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m. and every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. And if you want to be part of that, just shoot me a message and I'll put you on my email list so that you'll get those reminders, and you'll also get notifications if, you know, life happens and I have to change that for some reason. Those classes are only $25. I also do private one-on-one sessions. I also work with semi-private, so you can come talk to me about that. In March, we are going to have our Transformational Breath Personal Seminar. And this is going to be with my teacher, Jennifer Gronbach, and that's going to be local here in Murrieta. I'm super excited about this. This is Jennifer's, probably her 3rd year doing this, running this program by herself. She's co-run it with Judith Kravitz, the founder of Transformational Breath, for probably the last 6 or 7 years, or maybe even 8. So this is going to be March 19th to the 24th. It starts on a Tuesday night. It will finish on Sunday at lunchtime. I'm going to be up there with her. And this is a real immersion in the breath. It's 6 days. You get to do 2 breath sessions a day, as well as 1 short session in the morning. So 3 sessions a day, I guess. You get to learn all sorts of cool things. Like we'll be teaching you the Fountain of Youth postures. So that's why I look 21, even though I'm 46. We teach you an abundance program. We teach you some forgiveness exercises. We teach you, soul communication exercises. We do a breathing session in the water, which is absolutely amazing. I'm still blown away by my first one ever. I heard the angels. I heard choirs of angels. I was underwater and I heard choirs of angels as I was breathing underwater. It was just the most miraculous, beautiful gift I'd ever received up to that point in my life. It was really special. So can't say enough about that. It totally changed my life. It's 6 days. You come in, one version of yourself, and you walk out a whole new, upgraded, updated, wonderful version of yourself. And you get to keep all the best parts. Like, for example, I'm an overachieving A-type. I like to do things well. I like to please people because, I want to be loved. So I got to do everything right. But now I know I can be loved even if I don't do everything right, but I still have that desire and that earnestness and that integrity to want to do everything right. So it's kind of like I get to keep the best of all of my aspects, but let go of the things that don't serve me. A couple of books that I want to recommend. Well, I have more than a couple. This is Breathe Deeply, Laugh Loudly. This is written by Judith Kravitz, who is the founder and co-developer of Transformational Breath. Awesome book, talks about the science of breath. It talks about Judith's story and how she found it and discovered it and developed it. It also talks a lot about case studies and all the different ways that you can use it in your life. So awesome resource. The Presence Process is by Michael Brown. If you'd like kind of to get into the science of things, this is a great book. He has a great way of playing with words, and he has a great way of helping us to learn to work with our triggers. He talks about our triggers as being, messages, messengers, and, the emotions, energy and motion. He has a lot of really clever things in his book that really help us to anchor in his concepts. He has a 10-week breathing program. So for those of you that aren't local or that, don't have resources right now to be able to come to seminar or some of our other events, for less than $20, you can buy this book and he will teach you how to do breathing techniques very similar to what we do in Transformational Breath, except his is nose breath based, and he has a 10-week journey that he walks you through. So highly recommend that book. For the oils, this is where I started. Emotions and Essential Oils. It's an awesome book. It's put out by enlightenhealing.com. I don't know if you can see that. I'll take pictures and put them in the feed here. But that's an awesome book. Very basic introduction to the concepts that I've shared tonight, but it also has an index where it talks about lots of the different oils and their benefits to you, their emotional support and physical support and all of that. So pretty cool. Another great resource, Releasing Emotional Oils. Sorry, my brain gets backward when I'm working with the camera. Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. And this is by Carolyn Mine. She's a doctor of chiropractic. And she has done years and years of research now on how we can release some of these emotional patterns with essential oils. She also has a lot of information on how it works in our body from a scientific standpoint, so that's a great resource if you want to get into the science of it. And then last but not least is what I call my oil Bible, which is the Essential Oils Desk Reference, and this is put out by Life Science Publishing. This is an awesome resource. I love it. I use it all the time. There is also a wonderful app for the oils if you don't want to buy the big book and look that around with you. It is called Reference Guide for Essential Oils. And when you go to the App Store, at least on Apple, it will say Ref, R-E-F, and then Guide for the number 4-E-O. And I'll put that in the feed too so that you have that. But that's the resources that I would recommend for you. I want to thank you for joining me. Please invite all of your questions and comments. I would love to hear your feedback. And I was delighted to be here tonight. And I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.